I actually read something yesterday that made me think of this. So I'll quote it to you now and see what you think about this. So if anybody's interested, this is from this is How to Win Friends and Influence People, which
Okay,
I've
yeah.
talked about separately before. I won't bore everybody with it again now. But so one of the ideas in this book is this: the only way on earth to influence people is to talk about what they want and to show them how to get it. So just taking that in mind, the only way on earth to influence other people is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it. So do you think
Not
that is the
to-
most fundamental kind of human instinct in a way? So how do we get people to want to prepare?
okay, so I'm going to push back on that because I don't think that that's true. I think he's touched on something that's fundamentally true, but that is not the only way to change behavior.
Right.
Because here's the thing. I think there are three reasons we do the things that we do. Okay. For one, yes, we do the things we want to do. I
Mm-hmm.
want to drink beer. I want to lay on the beach. People tend to do the things that they want to do. Two, people do the things that they have to do. Do I want to pay taxes? No, but I do because I have to. We have to drive on the right side of the road in the United States. We have to pay taxes. We have to wear our seatbelts. But then there's a third one. We do the things that we feel we are expected to do. That's a third one. So things just like those regular cultural behaviors of how do I eat my pizza? If I'm in New York City and I'm eating my pizza with a fork and a knife, have I broken a law? Have I done a social taboo? No, I haven't. You kind of smile.
As
But
someone who worked in Manhattan, I'm kind of, yeah.
Mayor de Blasio he was caught by the New York Times eating a freaking pizza with a knife and fork. And you know what they did? They made fun of him badly
Mm-hmm.
because as New Yorkers, you are expected to eat your pizza in a certain way. So socially, we steer each other in the direction that we all are supposed to be in, right? Even down to things like eating pizza. So what does that have to do with preparedness? The problem with preparedness is when you look around, if you don't see people preparing, then you have the idea that, well, they don't really expect me to either, right? When we don't see people doing something that we should do, then we basically understand that we're not really expected to do that. Sure, FEMA is going to say, get a kit, make a plan, stay informed. But if I don't see that in my workplace, then I can see that I'm not really expected to, right? So again, back to the point, we do the things that we want to do, the things we have to do. You don't want to prepare. You really don't.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to prepare because it's not law. So we're down to the last thing. What are you expected to do? And
Sure.
your culture is what leads you toward that expectation. And culture is a very visible practice, which is why I'm trying to make preparedness visible, starting in at least workplaces.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I certainly see your point. I think we could probably get into a very long conversation about if we're ultimately doing what we want, because I think we have to do things like wear seatbelts because we want to do that over, say, getting a fine or being stopped by the police or whatever. So I think ultimately it may well distill to that, but like I said, that's a completely separate situation.
You're
Probably
right.
one that comes back to preparedness in that way. So one thing that I do want to talk about, and I'm hoping you're not sick of talking about this yet, is your TEDx talk. I have ranted and raved about it. I think it's brilliant. It's very, very funny. So if anybody's watching this hasn't seen it yet, they definitely need to see it. But one of the things that you mentioned and that talk was about why we don't prepare for earthquakes. And one of the things that you mentioned in that was that basically like the aftermath of a disaster is like forced camping, right? I'm bastardizing your words a little bit here, but it's basically like, you know, we go camping, we go and we have very few supplies, we go and we have, you know, little in the way of services, facilities, whatever else. That's essentially what we're going to be forced into doing. But it's like you wouldn't just go off and camp in the woods. You know, that's the message that I got from it. You know, I wouldn't go out without taking things with me, for example. And so,
Right.
you know, that's the kind of message that I got from that. And that really resonated with me. So, I mean, as part of your work, are you finding that distilling these sort of preparedness messages down into the everyday language of just what we do, is that helping, do you think, to talk about preparedness that way?
Oh, I think that the way we talk about preparedness is you got to meet people where they're at, right? And the way that we talk about preparedness is going to shape people's ideas and perceptions about preparedness, and ultimately whether they will choose to prepare or not. So I think that preparedness has been kind of an alienating topic. I don't think anyone meant to make it an alienating topic, but when you look at the last 10, 20 years of Red Cross or FEMA preparedness, it's just loaded with should, the things you should do. This is the risk, and this is what you should do about it, and here are the resources. And it's kind of operated on this myth that if we understand a risk and we understand what to do, then we'll do it. It doesn't really work that way, right? Because again, preparedness is ultimately a cultural element. So this profound disconnect has been cooked up over the last 20 years between the people who are talking about preparedness and propagating and preaching preparedness and the actual practice of it, that we have learned to not listen, right? We have learned to not listen because the messengers of preparedness don't feel like our next door neighbor. They don't feel like our best friend. They don't feel like someone we know. So what I've tried to do with the TEDx talk is I'm trying to be everybody's next door neighbor, right? I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm trying to tap into our collective common sense. I don't really expect people to get ready for a big, scary thing that they don't understand. So let's start by actually understanding the risk. Let me show you the risk. Let me show you the science, make it understandable so you can do the math of what this is going to do to a bridge after 6 minutes of shaking. Let's help you understand what it's like to go without utilities, because you've done the math. Once you've imagined the shaking event and understand what causes that, you understand there's not going to be utilities for an extended period of time. And you'll understand on your own that the same utilities and services you rely on are the same ones that first responders rely on. So you'll do the math and say, oh, crap, man, I understand preparedness. I have independently invented preparedness in my own mind based on my common sense. Now I'm asking myself, how can I do this, right? That's a long way of saying that TEDx talk, what I'm trying to do really is create demand for preparedness. If you're offering something, preparedness information, when there's not demand for it, you've created a disconnect. So I'm trying to create some demand for preparedness so that all those great resources that are out there being unused, that people can actually go out there and find them because they want them, because they understand based on their own common sense that this is going to be in their best interest and that of their families.